This video is going to be super quick because I just want to show you guys a very cool feature in Clip Studio Paint that I feel has made me a more efficient artist. So if you didn't know, there are ways that you can check your print colors within Clip Studio Paint. As you know, the file menus up at the top, these menus that typically come in every program, have a wealth of resources within them. And a lot of people are expecting these resources to just be upfront and right where you can see them, but sometimes you have to go digging around to find these things. So here's what I found. Also, this is the third and final Uncanny Valley print that I was making for my shop. So if you order from my shop before spring, then you'll get this as a print. So there are two ways that you can check your colors. The first way is by going to Windows, Canvas, New Window, and it opens a secondary window of your piece. If you are lucky enough to have a second monitor, you can detach this window and drag it up to your second monitor. You can't see my second monitor right now, but you can drag it up to your second monitor and kind of compare the colors from your first monitor to your second monitor. What I'm noticing is that my second monitor is a little bit more green toned, meaning that the colors in my print are looking a little bit more green yellow instead of a reddy yellow. It doesn't matter to me because they both read as gold, and that is more important to me than whether or not it reads as green yellow or red yellow. The other way that you can check your print colors and your print colors accuracy is by going to this menu right here called View. The View menu has a lot of different options for you to look, but if you go down to Color Profile, it gives you this option called Preview and Preview Settings. A lot of people will bypass this because what is color options? It's not direct and in front of their face, right? So if you hit Preview Settings, it'll pull up this little sub menu that's called Color Profile Preview. Right here, it says Profile for Previews, and you click it and it gives you a bunch of different options for color based on what you're printing. So I have an Epson Eco Tank, so I can hit Epson Standard RGB Gamma 1.8, or I can hit Epson Standard RGB, just no Gamma. These are two options that I have. I also have Epson Inkjet Printer 07, which is another option that comes with my printer. But if you're looking to outsource your prints, you want to focus on CMYK. All of these are CMYK options, and depending on where you're printing from, and if your printer does not support RGB printing, then you want to focus on these. Typically what I'll do is I'll leave it on US sheet fed coated, because these prints are printed on paper, like specialty paper, like a glossy photo paper. So I leave it there and I will bounce between the two. Sometimes I'll switch it between coated and uncoated just to see what the change in the color would be. And if you notice, there's going to be like slight changes in the color. Let's see if I can show you guys a more drastic change. So let's go Epson Standard RGB. So if you look, it's definitely a different color. And then we switch it back to sheet fed coated, it has a more reddish tone. It's not fully red, but it has a little bit more red to it. Rendering intent is also very important because it's asking you how you intend to print it. Do you want it to be up to perception? Do you want it to be more saturated? Do you want it to be relative color, or do you want it to be absolute color? Those are your four options. Absolute color will give you this. This is exactly what it would look like if I printed it. Relative will give you something close, but it will also tell you like, oh, that detail that you have in the background, that's gonna go away. So if you noticed, I had that detail in the background of the light, that's gonna go away, and it's just gonna get sucked into the void. If you do saturation, it'll come back, but this is not going to print this way. At least for my printer, it won't. And then perceptual is just like as close as possible. So for my printer, it would look more like absolute, which will darken and saturate certain areas. Library to use, there's only, depending on the computer that you're using and the kind of computer that you have, there should only be 2 libraries. There should be the Microsoft library and the ICC library. I'm not 100% sure on that. That is something that I skipped over during my college classes. I just did not pay attention to that, so I can't give you all the details. But I typically leave it on ICC library. Also, you have tonal correction, where you can kind of mess around with your colors. So if I go to my cyan, I see that there's not a lot of cyan in my darks, but there is a lot in my lights, so I might want to lean it more towards the darks to make it a little bit more red, take a little bit of that cyan out. Or I go to my magenta, and all of my magentas right here. This is a trick that I learned in my very first year of college doing a photo correction class, which was marketed as a Photoshop class. It was not, it was just photo correction. If you go into level correction and you see that your colors are all pushed into one section, if you take your 2 end arrows and you push them in to where that color is, same here with the yellow. The yellow, there's no yellow in the darks, but there's tons of yellow in the lights. Sometimes you can go through and kind of fix up how it would look when it prints. Then we could go back to cyan. Cyan is a bit harder. We can really mess around with it a lot, just to get really creepy vibes off of this. Sometimes I find as a horror artist, messing with your levels and just kind of pushing them around after you've completely finished your piece, pushing them around and making it work for you helps you create a better, more consistent look in your art. So say you want that like dark creepy vibe, this would do that. Doing your level correction would do that. That's just an offhanded thing. But that's how you would preview your CMYK colors. You go to color profile, preview settings, or just straight up preview. And it'll preview it in whatever library you have. So if you look up here, I think you guys can see it. Kinda. So up here it says CMYK US Sheet Fed Coded version 2. And that's what we picked in the preview settings, which you can always go back to. And you can like absolutely mess around with all of the, ooh, that's creepy and I love it. You can kind of mess around with all of the settings to kind of show you what you'd get, you know? Okay. That is it for this week's video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this information was useful for you. If you did find it useful, go ahead and hit that like button down below. And make sure you subscribe so you can see more quick tips for Clip Studio Paint and fun art videos and whatnot. I hope you guys had an amazing week, and I will see you next week for our next video. Bye!